everybody, my name is Obed Torres, and today I'm going to teach you guys how I tune my toms. It's time for a head change, might as well get it on video, right? A lot of people ask me, and it's just a lot easier to do this than to respond to everybody, you know, one by one. For starters, take this off, and yeah, I always start with my low tom first, because you tune your rack tom as low as it can go. Your floor tom will probably not go as low as it can go to match that. So you go as low as you can go with your floor tom, and then you match your rack tom to it. I can't explain it the way that I'm thinking it through, but just trust me on that. It's way easier to start with your floor tom. What I have here is a Remo Vintage Emperor, coated. A lot of people step on their drum heads. I don't do that. Sometimes I do if I'm in a rush, but I don't know if you hear that cracking. That's the glue. You can do that with your fingers, with your thumbs, your hands, whatever. Another way to do it is to just put it on and just do that. Generally, when I put this on, I'll just aim it up to where the logo is okay with me, just because it's not OCD, but I really like the logo facing me that way. It just feels good. So we put this on. I'm gonna rush through this because it's finger tightening. Don't need to see that. All right, so once it's finger tightened, what I like to do is I like to take my drum keys and just kind of do a half rotation the whole way around and see where that gets me. You can go star pattern, you can go around, it doesn't really matter to me. I've found that I can go either way and I still get the result that I am looking for. So now that I've done kind of a half turn all the way around, I'm going to match the lugs. That sounds pretty good to me, honestly. Another thing to keep in mind when you're tuning your drums is to make sure the shell is happy. If your shell is not happy, the drum head will not be happy and you will not be happy. All that to say is if you're trying to tune really, really low and your drum is wobbling out on you or it sounds papery, maybe go higher. You can't go that low. You will only go as low as your drum will let you. So after that, I'll kind of leave it and tune it up a little bit more just to crack the glue. Get it to kind of a bebop. Is that the word? Bebop? Jazzy? You know, whatever. Really high tuning. Get to that. Leave it for a while. Play on it. Stretch it out a little bit more. Like that. You leave that while you put the other drum head on. This is a 12-inch rack tom. Got the same head. Do the same thing. Crack the glue with your fingers, whatever. You can also go this way. I don't like doing that though. Feels weird. Feels like I'm ruining it, even though I'm not. So it's good practice to clean this, get all the dust out, whatever. Something that I want to point out is if you have a very pingy sound in your drum, like you hit it and there's this really like, I don't know, like 1K, 2K kind of ring in it, just like a basketball sound. Try to put some of this on. This is just a sheet put around the shell inside, supported by the, I don't know, screws that are holding the lugs. And what that does is it's kind of a form of acoustic treatment, and it gets rid of that ping almost completely, if not as much as you need it to. This is a round over edge. That helps a lot with warmer tones, like it gives you a lot more of a dead sound. These are triple flange hoops. If you want an even more dead sound with these type of bearing edges, I recommend a die-cast hoop. That's why Gretsch Drums has so many fat sounding drums, is because they don't have a 30 degree, or not 30 degree, they don't have a round over edge, they have a 30 degree. And so that's a little bit even more of a dead sound, but it has more of an attack to it. But the density and the weight of the rim being die-cast deadens the drum a lot more than if it were a triple flange. So finger tighten again. Make sure the logo is where you want it to be. If you don't care, it's okay. Let's skip again. All right, so we got them all finger tight. Gonna do the same thing as the floor tom. Another thing you can do if your drum head is not seating onto the bearing edge from the start is to put your finger on the edge of the drum head until you stop feeling it give, until you feel the bearing edge. So that's what I just did here. Right here, it's very loose. I don't know if you can hear that. So I'll just push it down till I feel it touch contact with the bearing edge. And that's almost the same thing as having it finger tight. Finger tightening only works if your bearing edge is level. If your bearing edge is not level, you're gonna have to do a little bit more tweaking after your finger tightening, kind of like I just did. That sounds pretty good to me. Before I do this, let me tell you what I'm doing. I'm putting it right back on the rack so I can start tuning from there, because you don't want to tune every drum head by itself. You want to make sure that they're resonating with each other after the initial tuning. So yeah, I'm gonna check it and make sure it sounds good like that. So you can hear there's a little bit more of a wobble, a little bit more resonance when it's not on the snare stand. I think that's as good as it's going to get. When you have that wobbly sound on a drum, it's because the bearing edge is not perfect. The bearing edge is not set to true flatness, or it's just cut the wrong way. These drums specifically are vintage built drums. They're made in Japan. These were the cheap option for people, really for beginner drummers, or for people that couldn't afford a Ludwig or a Slingerland or, you know, a Tama from back then. This is Asian mahogany, and when they're a vintage built drum, it's a 3-ply shell. And so when you have a 3-ply shell, you will have a bump where the 3 shells meet and intertwine, where they're glued together, and that's going to give you a slight difference in your bearing edge. It'll never be truly flat, ever. Unless you take the wrap off and you do it by hand, which is very, very extensive. Like, it's a lot of work. That's artisan work, really. So you get it as good as you can make it sound. I could tune it up, tighten it up, but that's not the sound I'm looking for. Though, that's where I get back to saying what I did earlier, is you only get as far as your drum will let you. So let's try to keep going, make it sound a little bit better. Yeah, let's go lower. Let's go back. All right, that's about where we were at. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this out too. Kind of there. And just play it for a little bit. Stretch them boys out. Just stretch them out a little bit. So now we can go back and we're going to detune and then find out where the happy place is. These lugs need some oil. I should have done that. Like I said, that's probably going to be the best that you can get with these, because they have a 3-ply bump, and that 3-ply bump, wow. That 3-ply bump is where the head is uneven, so it's always going to have that kind of wobbly sound. And now you just kind of want to match them to where they sound good together. I think they sound good there. So final step would be putting on some moon gels if you want them. Most people are advocates of never muffling drums. Some people only love muffling drums. It works out anyway, whatever makes the song feel good and whatever makes the engineer happy. I will usually do about 2 moon gels on floor tom. Then I'll do one on the rack tom. I should have a new box here somewhere. You can also try O-rings. There's these mufflers called Roots EQ. Those are really nice. I've played them a few times. I don't own any, but they sound killer. They make the drum sound so beefy. I'm gonna mess with this floor tom a little bit. I think that's better. Don't be afraid to retune once the muffling is on, because that's going to change it too. The whole point of tuning is to make sure that all the lugs sound the same. Like all of these little things, in case you don't know what lugs are. These boys, right on the head next to it. They all got to sound the same. That's the end goal. So you saw how I started. You saw what I did to stretch them out. You saw how I stretched them out while I did the other one. You saw how I tuned them up. It's not a science. It's really not. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. It wasn't as thorough as I thought it was going to be or wanted it to be, but it was quick, and hopefully it can be that quick for you too. See you guys.